Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another in the Algorithm webinar series. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon for a live look at what we believe is really the future of ERP. Um, a few years ago, we set out looking for a cloud ERP solution that could be a part of our future here at Algorithm. And we found a clear leader, and we're very pleased to be able to share Acumatica with you here today. To give you a little bit of background, Acumatica is the fastest growing ERP company anywhere in the world, and it's winning a slew of awards, including the 2018 CODI winner for Best Cloud ERP and Manufacturing Solution, and also PC Magazine Editor's Choice for the best ERP software. Um, we're really excited about the direction that this affords Algorithm to take, and also providing our customers a new solution that is able to meet a number of different needs that we've been receiving requests for. Now, that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to our Dave Dozer, who's going to be sharing Acumatica with us today. And Dave, as many of you know, has a long history not only as a user of ERPs at a number of different companies, but also as a consultant and a program manager with a former employer before he came to Algorithm. We're thrilled that he's part of our team now, and I know that Dave is really excited about what Acumatica can offer to our customers. That said, I'm sure that we are excited to get to the presentation. So, Dave, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you.
Appreciate the introduction there, Jeff, and yeah, we'll definitely jump right into the meat and potatoes of it here, and really the goal today is to give you guys a overview of really how Acumatica works, how it flows, those things that Jeff was talking about, the awards. They're winning those awards for a reason. A lot of user experience awards. They're really kind of, for lack of a better word, and not to fluff it up too much, revolutionizing in my mind how ERP flows, how it works, kind of getting away from that monolithic feel of legacy type of systems, and really kind of focused more on, what you would almost think of as a consumer type of product. So it's something that folks can get in and naturally and easily use and navigate around without just having to memorize button clicks and keystrokes and those sort of things. So we don't have a ton of time today, but I really want to make sure that we get a feel for the depth and breadth of the application. So it is a full suite ERP, all the way from the things you would expect, like finance, inventory management, distribution, manufacturing. There's built-in CRM, there's task and approval management, there's time and expense management, so there's a whole lot of things. So again, what we want to do today is really just get you familiar with how it works from a high level. So we'll start with a general overview of getting around the application. Then we're going to look at a couple processes, so get you down in the transactional level, so to speak, and we'll take a look at putting in a sales order, how to configure products on a sales order, take a high-level look at production, and then order fulfillment. And then at the end, as Jeff mentioned as well, we'll open her up for questions and hopefully get some feedback, and you guys find the presentation today valuable and informative. So the first thing that we want to take a look at is going to be the dashboards in Acumatica, and that's really sort of the backbone of getting information out to folks and getting them the information that they need that's pertinent to their functional area when they first log in to the system. So you'll notice here I'm taking a look at a sales manager dashboard. That might be a production manager, it might be the CEO, CFO, accounting. There's a slew of out-of-the-box dashboards, and then it's very easy to create these on your own as well. So you'll notice some different elements, like along the top here we have some key performance indicators like our number of wins, losses, what our deal size trend is, those sort of things. So, high level, quick snapshot sort of data points that I want to see and be able to act on quickly. And then we get down into some charts and graphs type of things. So taking data that's out there, like, how the salespeople all did by year and month, and then being able to visualize that data in a way that's meaningful. And then you'll see as I hover over anything on these charts, I have the ability to drill down right away. Like if I want to see, how much USA Bartending School did here on my top 10 customers, I can just click on that. And what that's going to do is actually drill me down into the data that's making up that piece of the pie there, so I can start to see specific invoice numbers, dates, and amounts on those invoices. So it's not just a graphical representation. I can quickly drill into that data and start to, take action on it, understand what's making up that data. So it's a very quick and intuitive way to see what I need to see within the application. And one thing I really like to point out with the dashboards as well is that it's not a third-party add-in. It's not any sort of proprietary like reporting tool that's snapped in or anything like that. It's part of the application. So if you have the rights in the system to do so, it's very easy to change and manipulate what you see on those dashboards as well. So just as an example, if I hit design here, you'll see I can start to drag and drop where I want things to show up. So a very easy, intuitive way to do that. And then if I want to add something onto my dashboard, so let's say there's certain tasks within the system, so things that I need to approve, data that I need to look at, and I want to see that on my dashboard as well, and click on the Add New Widget button here. And you'll see there's some different types of elements that we have the ability to add, and I'll just do a simple data table. And then basically all I do is say, well, where do I want to pull this information from? So I'm not writing a database query. I'm not trying to write a report or anything like that. I'm just intuitively, navigating out to where I would navigate to see that information in the system anyway. And in this case, I want to see tasks. And maybe I just want to see the tasks that are mine. I don't care about everybody else's. So I'll apply the filter for my task, finish that, and you'll see then very quickly that adds that little element to my dashboard there. And then if I want to expand it, I can just drag and drop it out. And I've added additional information, real time, quickly, that now, I've got some things here that I've got to act on. I've got a call to help close an opportunity. I can drill down onto that right from my dashboard and get to that data. So it's very easy to configure and see what's actually important. So as you're capturing data in the ERP, it's very easy to get that back out of the ERP and see that how you need to see it. Now, the next thing we'll take a look at is going to be what Acumatica refers to as workspaces. And those are getting away from the data visualizations and are more the nuts and bolts transactional areas within the application. So you'll see here over on the left-hand side, if we take a look at sales orders, for instance, I can click on that, and that gives me a little flyout menu. And on here, it's comparable to, in a lot of ERP systems, what you would think of as a module. So it's a grouping of all the types of activities that would happen or could happen on the sales order piece of things. Now, again, just like the dashboards, these workspaces are configurable as well. So there's tons of these out-of-the-box ones, but if you have a very specific or designed process flow, any menu item can exist on that process flow. So again, you can really tailor it and configure it to your business, and you're not stuck in these sort of predefined boxes of where things need to go and where they need to be and how they need to look. So you'll see at the top I've got some little quick links for doing things like creating new sales orders, quotes, payments, customers. And then I get down to more into transactional type of things. So I can pull up a list view of sales orders. I can maintain customers. And this one's very important as well. So the processes. So anything I can do on a one-by-one transaction within the system, I'm going to be able to do as a bulk process as well. So a little bit later on, as an example, we're going to take a look at shipping an order. That's something I'm going to be able to do one by one. Or if I've got 10 orders that all need to ship out, I'm going to be able to run the process here and ship out all 10 orders at one time. So, gone are the days of having to go in and pull up one transaction at a time, bill it, ship it, invoice it, those sort of things. I can do all those transactions in bulk to really save time and add efficiency to my processes there. So again, it's a very easy way to transact. And then the great thing about these workspaces as well is they're very intuitive and consistent. So you'll see how things are laid out on the sales orders here. Well, if I jump over to purchases, it's going to be laid out in a very similar way. At the top, I've got quick links to do, daily type of things like create a new purchase order, a new vendor, and then I have those transactions, profiles, processes, and reports again laid out just like they were on the sales order side. So even if I'm not specifically trained in a certain area, if I need to go cover for someone, it's very easy for me to jump over to that area and find what I'm looking for, find the data, and get to what I need to get to in a quick and easy and seamless type of fashion. So speaking of finding data, the third sort of navigation point that I want to look at before we get into entering a sales transaction is kind of hidden up here at the top, and this is our search. So again, most of the times in an ERP type of application, a search is going to be a very targeted type of thing. So, I'm searching items, for instance. I'm searching customers. I have to tell it what I'm searching on. I have to say these are the fields that I'm searching on, whether it's address, customer name, contact, whatever it is. I've got to build a search essentially. Well, the way the search works in Acumatica, it's what I like to refer to as the Google search of ERP. So I don't have to tell it where I'm searching. I just tell it what I'm searching for. So for an example, I have a customer in my demo data here that's called USA Bartending. So let's say I want to find that customer. I can just start typing the word bartend, and then this is going to search here for me in transactions and profiles. So I start to see everything that meets that criteria that I searched for. So if we want to drill down another level on that, let's say, for example, a customer calls me up and they're specifically asking about invoice number 2595 here. Well, I can just type in 2595, and that's going to find every transaction that meets that criteria of 2595. So that works on, a purchase order number, a phone number, any piece of information I have, I can pop that into the search here, and that's going to search the whole system for that information. So even if someone calls in and gives me their name and I can't even find the customer that we're looking for, I can just type in their last name, and here's Sam Malone, who's a contact at the bartending school. So you'll see how it starts to pull all that together for me, so it saves a lot of button clicks and digging and searching and trying to find data. The other great piece about that too is it will search the menu for me as well. So let's say there's a function that I don't do all that often, and I want to be able to, find that once a year or something like that. So let's say that I'm looking up like 1099s, for instance, because I do that once a year and I don't remember exactly where it's at. Well, I type in the word 1099, look under my menu items, and it shows me every function within the application that meets that 1099 criteria. So this is really a unique and robust type of tool and even way to navigate within the system as well. So it's a very handy thing that really adds to that usability within the application. And then to top it all off, I'm going to look at my bartend school again here. So there's also a file management system within the system. and this searches the files as well. So we can see right here for my bartend school, I've got a PDF linked up to that customer record. So as I'm adding files to transactional data within the system, I've got the ability to search those files as well from the function here. So it really brings it all together and makes it a quick and easy way to get around the system. So that's kind of the look and feel and layout. So the next thing that I want us to take a look at is actually getting in and getting our hands dirty and putting some transactions into the system. So for that example, I'm going to take a look at sales orders. Now, rather than jumping right to a new sales order, I'm going to come into my transactions and take a look at sales orders because this is going to let me see everything that's out there. So right now I'm looking at every single sales order that's out there in the system. So I see some basic information like the sales order number, the date, my customer, the quantity that was ordered. Well, let's say for instance that individually I need to see some different data on this grid here. So all I have to do is come over and click on the left-hand side here, and you'll see then I get a list of every piece of information that's available to see on this grid here. So that really allows me then to configure. So let's say I want to add customer order to this. I can say OK. So I've now got my customer order field, and then I can just drag and drop wherever I want to see that field. So that allows me to customize the data experience, so to speak, to how I want to see that and be able to manipulate it differently from someone else perhaps, because it really gives me control over how I'm interacting. Then on top of that, I have the ability here to then sort of do an Excel-like search and filter on each field as well. So let's say I really don't care about completed or closed sales orders. I can come into the status here, and I can say, okay, only show me open sales orders. And so that automatically filters for me and shows me what I'm filtering on. So I don't have to go through, entering data into individual fields and say I want to sort by this field and order by this field. It's really just a quick drag and drop click type of way to manage data within the system. Now we're looking at the sales orders here, but that same functionality applies anywhere within the application. So again, kind of tacking on to our user experience overview, it's just another way to interact that makes it easy to see the information that I need to see. So we'll come up to the top here and go ahead and add a new sales order in this case. And again, as we see some of the different transaction screens, you're going to see a lot of consistency between what each screen looks like. So you're not jarring, you're not jarred awake by a screen that looks totally different or is obviously written in a different code set or something like that. It's very consistent and concise throughout the whole application. So we'll put in the basic information we need to on here. So I'm going to do my bartending customer. So one nice thing too is, let's say I need to look up some additional information on this customer. I can click on this little pencil right here, and this is going to take me right to the master record for this customer, so I can see everything that's going on with them. I can see that right now they've got a balance of $90,000 with us. And I can also do some light CRM activities as well. So let's say I want to check out, before I book this order, I want to see what's been going on with these guys, if they've been having any trouble, if there's anything I should bring up. So I can come over and take a look at activities, and I get a list of every sort of interaction that as an organization we've been having with this customer. So I see they recently did a server upgrade. We can see they had a dispute of $80 here on an invoice, and I can click on that, see the email communication, and just as an organization have visibility into what's going on with this customer, so that as I'm booking this order, is there any sort of special things I need to take into consideration as we're doing this for that customer. We won't go through every single field necessarily, but you've got all the information that you need to be able to manage orders throughout the process. So we'll come down to the bottom section, and we'll actually add a line item here. So let's say they're putting a new order in for their new CTO who needs a laptop. So I'm going to start looking at my item. And you'll notice it does the progressive type ahead search. So as I'm typing, it starts to filter down my results to allow me to select from the list. I can do a full search with the little magnifying glass too, but this is just a handy and easy way to get information faster, so to speak. So this CTO laptop, this is something that we're actually going to manufacture for this order, meaning that we've got, in my test company here, we've got a warehouse and we've got all the parts for the laptop, and we'll basically configure or build these laptops per order. So in this case, we only need one laptop. Now you'll notice that I don't have any unit price here. And that's because we need to actually tell Acumatica what choices the customer wants on this particular laptop, because it's something that we can build and configure to order. So I'm going to click on my configure button here. And what this is going to do is allow me to make the choices of what features go into this laptop. So the first thing you'll notice here is the color. And I can say, okay, I want a black laptop, maybe a cool black, or let's go with a red one. And now I can start specifying the options for this laptop as well. So you'll see right here, I can pick what CPU I want in the laptop. So let's go with the 5.2 gigahertz. And you'll notice as I check this, on the left-hand side here, it shows me all the different options that I'm going to need to specify for this laptop. So, the CPU, the color like we did, the memory, the hard drive. And what's happening here is as I'm making these selections, so I'm the salesperson, I'm on the phone with the customer, and they're telling me what, specs they want in this laptop. This is actually going to build out the price, and it's going to build out ultimately the bill of material for what we need to build to for this particular item. So, we can handle repetitive manufacturing, but in this example, we're actually doing build-to-order manufacturing. So let's take a look at the memory that needs to go into it. So I want this thing pretty beefy, so I'll select my 8 gigs of memory here. And then finally, let's pick our hard drive, and let's definitely go with a good solid-state hard drive here. So we'll pick that. Now, you can see as I'm picking those options, that's updating the price here. So let's say I decide I don't want the solid state and just go with the regular 1 terabyte drive. You'll see the price changes to $450 there. So it's building as I select all the different options for this product. So we can go ahead and finish this. And that's going to mark this configuration as completed for me. So it updates my unit price there. So what's really great about that is that's, again, going to flow through to my production side as well. In this case, I'll go ahead and mark it for production and feed all of those options that we picked into the production side of things. So it's a real slick way to be able to kind of do that configuration and or estimating and take it all the way through to the production side as well. So another thing that we'll notice within the Acumatica application is everything's very interconnected and linked together. So we do have full material requirements planning, production scheduling, and all of that. So I can either, as an organization, decide that I want my MRP to run, pick up the demand for this laptop and produce off of that, or I can do it to order as well. And if I have the rights to do so, I can even come in and I can actually, under my actions here, I can come in, click on production orders, and I can generate production orders straight from my sales order here as well. So if we go ahead and do that, I'll click on my laptop here, hit create, and this is actually going to go out and create a production order off of this sales order. And you'll see right here, I now have a production order number. So it has implicitly linked that production order to this sales order number. So I've got a tie between the two within the system. So in just a moment, we'll take a look at that production number. I'm sorry, excuse me, that production order and what that looks like, and running that through as we finish up the sales order here. So, but everything's very intuitive. From one screen, I can get to all the other places within the app that I need to be able to get to. A couple other things we want to look at on the shipping side here. So I've taken care of the nuts and bolts of configuring the laptop for the customer. We've gone ahead and sent the production order over to production as well, so it's queued up on that side. And let's take a look at the shipping as well. So I'm going to jump over to my shipping settings here, and we can go ahead and pick a way that it's going to ship. But let's say, again, I'm on the phone with a customer here, and they say, well, can you tell me the rates, or I don't know if I want to pay for overnight necessarily. So I can click on the Shop for Rates button here, and I'm going to click Refresh Rates up here at the top. And what this is going to do is actually go out to the common carriers that we have set up, so like FedEx, UPS, USPS, those guys, and it's going to show me based on the weight and dimensions of this box what the shipping rates are going to be. So you can see here, next day it's going to cost $84 to get there, but it'll get there by tomorrow. So I'm explaining to the customer, I say, well, that's a little bit high, so let's maybe just go UPS ground. So we can go ahead and select ground, say OK, and that's switched the rate for us as well. So it's going out using our account and getting that information real time. So I'm not having to jump over to to another system to look up what those rates are, or anything like that. So again, just another example of where it becomes easy and intuitive to get data when you need it, and how you need it. So we'll come back to the sales order in just a few moments, because we have this configured product, but now we need to actually produce that. So I can jump right into that production number right here from the line on the sales order. So again, this is going to be queued up with all my other production that's out there in the system, but I have these hooks and links everywhere within the application so that I'm able to quickly and easily get to all the information that I need to get to. So we can see we've got the inventory ID of this CTO laptop. We're going to produce one. But let's take a moment and look at what the production order is actually going to look like from a material standpoint. So I'm going to come up under my inquiries and look at my production detail. So this is going to show me graphically on the screen here basically how we have to make this and what material is going to go into it to make it. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on this screen here and explaining this, because it's a pretty important concept as we're talking about the production within Acumatica. Because it's a little bit different than some ERP systems where you have a product routing, so saying that to make this product, it goes to assembly, and then inspection, whatever those steps are to fabricate that is one piece of information. And then separate to that is the bill of material for that product. They say, here's all the items that go into, or raw materials that go into making that product. So the routing and the bill of material are generally kind of separated in a lot of ERP systems. In Acumatica, those are actually combined into one screen or one area here, which ends up making it a lot more logical, because as you go through that manufacturing process, you might need to actually pull materials at different times and different steps through that process rather than pulling everything all up front. So in the example of the bill of material and routing, that again was created because of the choices we made when we were configuring that laptop, we can see and start to understand how that's broken up. So you'll see here under our assembly where we insert the CPU on the motherboard. If we come down here at the bottom, we say, okay, well, we need the 5.2 gigahertz processor and we need a motherboard. And then in supplement to that, we can add any steps that need to happen, any special tooling. All this can be assigned on this bill of material. Now, if I go back up to the top here as well and click on my final assembly where I need to add the memory and the disk drive, you'll see on the bottom section here, those materials change because I don't need everything at the first step. I need certain materials at the first assembly step, and then later at the second step, that's when I need to utilize my hard drive and put the memory in. So you'll see how those are related in a way that's a little bit different again than some ERP systems where those two things are 100% separated from each other. So it just makes looking at the bill of material easy to understand and what needs to happen at which particular operation in the manufacturing process. So we'll pull our production order back up here since we've taken a look at what we actually need to make that production order. The next thing I want to take a look at is understanding, well, do we have all the raw materials we need to make this laptop? So I can come back up under inquiries and I'm going to run my critical material. So what this is going to do is actually blow through the bill of material and tell me if I have any shortages. So I have plenty of all of my components in stock, so you'll notice it says that there's nothing found, so that's great. But if I still want to take a look, I can click on my Show All Items, and this shows me all of those components that are necessary to build this product. So I can see right here what I have on hand. I don't have any short. But again, it would show me any of those shortages, and then in the interest of making a nice smooth process, if I'm the person in charge of purchasing, or maybe I want to purchase these just specifically for this job, I can click on the little checkbox here, check all of these parts on, and then right from this screen, I can go ahead and cut a purchase order for all of these items. So if I click on purchase, I've got my default vendor in there, so I can go ahead and create this, and then this is going to create a PO off of the need that was generated from this screen here. So again, I'm not like copying parts down, I'm not running a report to look for shortages. I can do that right in one nice smooth process. So it gives me an opportunity here to review the purchase order. I can make any necessary changes to the PO. If I need to add components, take components off, we'll take it off hold here. So I can go ahead and approve this PO. And then right from this screen as well, I have the ability to go ahead and email this PO right to the supplier. I have that same functionality when it comes to invoicing, when it comes to sending order acknowledgments, any sort of form generation that needs to go out can all be either done manually and sent out via an email, or automated to send out automatically. So you're not worrying about managing paper and getting that printed and mailed out or anything like that. So it's again very slick, smooth type of process. So for the sake of demonstration here, now generally, there's going to be some time gap between sending a PO out and getting those materials in. But for the sake of the demo here, we'll jump right to entering the PO receipt. So some time's passed. vendor shipped us the materials that we need here. So I can enter my PO receipt, and this is going to copy everything off of this purchase order and put this into the receiving screen. So this is again a time-saving type of thing. So even on this screen, I can add additional purchase orders if necessary, so I don't have to go through and receive each line one by one. I can actually receive based off of a PO as a whole, and then make individual changes to the line. If they short shipped something or left something off of the shipment, I can just modify that on the screen as opposed to going through and saying, okay, I need to receive the first line. Now I need to receive the second line and the third line, and so on and so forth. So it just, again, is a very easy way to transact with the application. So I don't need to make any changes to it. So I can actually go ahead and release this purchase order. And so in just a few steps, we've gone through seeing that we need material to complete a production order, cutting the purchase order for that material, and receiving that material in. So, it's a very, again, just fluid process in being able to do those things. So now that we have everything in that we need to be able to actually produce this now, we just to recap, we saw that we needed to buy some materials for it. We didn't necessarily have to, but we wanted to because we wanted them specific for this job. We cut the PO for it. We received those materials in. So now we're actually ready to release this order into production. So I'll go ahead and come up, and I'll say release order. So it moves to release status. And then let's say I want to still print a physical production order or traveler. Different folks call it different things. And come into reports, click on my production ticket, and just give you a feel for what the reports or generated paperwork looks like in the system. So this is an example of what my production ticket will look like. So I can see, by work center, what raw materials I need at each one of those work centers, and then, some of the general type of information that they kind of expect to see on a production ticket. But any of the reports within the application can be modified as well. So if there's certain custom things or additional data that you want to see on there, that's very easy to add to those reports. So now that we've printed our traveler or production ticket, whatever we want to call it, let's actually take a quick look here at the event history. So this starts to capture everything that's happened on a production order as it's going through the life of a production order. So you'll see right here it was created, released, and then we printed the report. So every time someone touches this order or any sort of transaction happens with this order, we're going to start to see it aggregated on the screen here. So I don't have to run any special reports to get that information. And even if I go to totals, you're going to see as it goes through the life of the life cycle of production, we see what the planned hours, material, everything is, what our actuals are, and then what variance we have. So for this order, we can see all of this real time as production is happening. We can keep track of everything that's going on with it. So now that we've got those raw materials that we need to make this laptop, we can come up under actions again, and this time I'm going to release material. So what this will actually do for me is take everything that I need for this job and allow me to issue it to the job. So we've got all those different components that we just received in. So I can select all of these, and that's going to take all of those, issue them to this production order. And that's a real handy thing too, because that allows you to even sort of create like a if you combine multiple production orders together. Let's say, just as an example, you had an iPad and you've got a picker out in the warehouse that needs to go through and pull these materials. They can use that right on the iPad and in real time mark off those inventory items as they're grabbing it off the shelf or when they go and deliver it to the necessary work center. So there's a lot of creative ways to be able to get information to the people that need it, and also be transacting this data close to the point that it's actually happening. So it's a pretty powerful tool. So I'm going to take this off hold and go ahead and release this. So what we've done is we've actually now released this material to the production order. So that's going into WIP, and we're in production, we're out on the floor. And depending on how you have your work center set up, you can decide if you want to move it through each work center. You have the option to back flush. So it's very flexible to meet the needs of your production environment, and how you generally handle your production. So just another quick look at the event history. So we can now see the material transaction that happened to issue those materials. We can even drill down into that if we want to see exactly what happened there. So again, for the sake of kind of expediting through the demonstration process here, we're going to jump right to finishing the production order. So we've taken our components, we've put the laptop all together. So now we're ready to actually create the move for this product. And what we mean by move is essentially taking the finished good and moving it from a particular work center into the finished good state. So in this case, we're going to report quantity of 1, and we'll release this. And so what this has done is said we've finished operation 10. And if we come in, and we'll go ahead and create an additional move. And this time it's smart enough to know that we've finished operation 10. So now we need to complete operation 20. Again, as an organization, it's your decision if you want to, complete each operation step and move it through the process, where you want the Y count point to be. All those are decisions that you make as you're mapping out how you want the manufacturing process to work for you. Or you can just backflush the whole thing. And as a note too, you'll notice right here I have the system set up to automatically assign a serial number to this finished good. There's a very robust serial lot tracking within the application as well, so where I could say I want to assign it, I want the system to assign it, what types of transactions do we want to assign it on. So a lot of different options and features available to us there as far as serialization and lot management goes. So we'll go ahead and finish this guy and release that. So now we've taken it all the way through the production process, and we'll let this update. Actually, I'll close this guy out. So now if we pull that production order back up, you'll notice the status has changed to completed because we've finished our production run. We can see the event history, again, of everything that happened with this particular production order. We can see what our totals were and what our variance was for us. So we're capturing all of this information in one easy to manage spot. So with our production order finished, I'm going to come back into our sales orders, and let's kind of put a bow on this and look at, now that we've completed production, what needs to happen to finalize this order and get our shipment out the door. So this is where I want to take a look at our bulk processes. So I can come in and say process orders. Actually, let me save this guy. say process orders. And you'll notice right here, this is a great area for the shipping person to kind of use to manage their day. So I'm saying I want to create shipments for all the orders that have a shipment date between 10/1, just in case I've got anything that's past due, and 10/23. And in this case, I have two sales orders that meet that criteria where we have the inventory in stock, in this case because we just made it, and that are supposed to ship out today. So instead of going through and manually shipping each order, I have the ability to check both of these orders on, process these, and this is actually going to prepare both of these sales orders here for shipment. So then that allows me to go to step number 2 of processing those shipments. Now, I can do that, one by one if I want to, and you'll see I have a lot of different options here. So I can print my picking tickets from here. I can generate my labels from here. I can send out ship confirmations from here. So I've got a whole slew of options available to me here to do in bulk instead of one by one necessarily. But let's just take a quick look at what a shipment looks like here, because you'll notice it's going to look, again, very similar to to a order. Now, this is important because if you noticed on the previous screen, I had 2 sales orders, but I ended up with 1 shipment. That's because I had 2 sales orders that were set to ship out on the same day, go to the same customer, and the same shipping address. So the system's smart enough at that point to know that I need to excuse me, back. Sorry, I accidentally hit my back button there. It's smart enough to know that, well, I should combine these 2 sales orders onto this single shipment because they're going to the same place. If they were set to go to different places or go via different shipping methods, then it wouldn't do that. It would be smart enough to go ahead and break those out into 2 separate shipments for me. So from this shipment, I can generate my shipment confirmation. I can print my picking list right from here. I can print labels. I can go through the that whole process. And you'll even notice here, I have the ability to automatically say what sort of box this should go into as well, and even have the ability to generate my tracking number from UPS, FedEx, whatever it might be, because we saw we have that integration. So the shipment piece is all integrated into that as well. So I don't have to go out to a third-party tool to be able to get my tracking and do all that. So we'll go ahead and confirm our shipment here. Again, something we could do in a bulk process from the previous screen. But now that I've confirmed my shipment, I can go ahead and prepare my invoice. And this is going to take that shipment based on what we actually sent out, generate the invoice for me, and right there we've got a customer invoice all ready to go out, tied back to the sales order, which is tied to the production order. So we've got that visibility all the way through. And to kind of tie a bow on it here, I'll release this. And just like we looked at with the purchase order and the ability to email that, I can do a manual, I want to print the invoice, or I can automatically email that invoice as well. So I've got a lot of options as far as how that's communicated too. So again, seeing how each of those transactions are linked together intrinsically, it makes for a smooth and easy process all the way through. So just to kind of recap, we took a look at just generally how to get around in the system. I know we covered a lot of stuff. With an ERP system this wide and deep, we could spend 2 hours just looking at a specific module. But hopefully, this gave you guys a good feel for just kind of how information flows, how to access it, how to get to it, and just a good general look and feel. We entered a sales order that had a configured item on it that dynamically created a bill of material and product routing for us. We took that through production, entered our purchasing for the materials for it, completed production, and shipped out those sales orders. So again, we touched a lot of areas, but hopefully it gave you guys a good feel for just how things flow within the app and how easy it is to transact in it. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Jeff in case there's any questions, and just really appreciate everyone's time today.
Thank you, Dave. Take a breath. We do have some questions, so
Excellent. Yeah, I haven't breathed for 45 minutes. So.
I didn't think so. I mean, it was one long breath there. That was great. So a couple things that you touched on early. I wanted we got a couple of quick questions at the beginning, so let's touch on those.
Okay.
You showed bulk processing, and
Yes.
obviously bulk processing can mean a lot of different things. I wanted to ask. We got one question right away. Are there limits on what types of transactions you can bulk process? You were showing shipping, for instance, but can you bulk process other types of transactions? So, purchasing, for instance, or sales orders.
You can, and some of those happen in a little different ways. But basically, any transaction that you can do on a transaction by transaction basis, there's going to be a comparable bulk process for that. So in some areas, it looks a little bit different. Like in purchasing, I would still go in and enter a purchase receipt, but I could bulk add. There's 10 POs on this purchase receipt. The sales orders, for instance, yeah, I can every step of the sales order, I can bulk process. So pretty much anything you can individually transact on, there's going to be a comparable bulk process for that.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And then we got a couple of questions about customization. So I want to go to those in a little bit
Okay.
a little bit of time. So first of all, if you customize reports or customizations in general, are those exposed to the search function, to the universal search?
They are. So they're exposed to the universal search, and to take it a little bit further. So let's say, just as an example, if I needed to add a brand new field to the sales order screen, when I add that field to the screen, it also becomes available in any of the other areas. So if I were to add some sort of user-defined field to the sales order, to the sales order screen, it would then be available to add to my grids as well. So once you add it, Acumatica sees it just like it's a field that's always been there.
Okay. Okay, great. And then in terms of customized forms, you showed us, I believe it was a purchase order. And can those forms be tailored or customized for companies that want to have either their logos and particular information, including pictures on it, or can you customize it for your end customers?
You can, yeah. So any of those printed forms that we saw, those can be customized. Now it's done through a for lack of a better term, a banded report writer. That's part of the application. Since it's cloud-based, it doesn't use any sort of third-party reporting tools. You can link third-party reporting tools into it if necessary, but those actual forms and reports can be customized and deployed out into the app. So if you need it to look different per customer, or just want to put some additional information on it, you have the ability to do that. And to take it a step further, you can create totally custom forms if you wanted to as well, and you can actually add those into the menu structure so they look like they've just always been there and are part of the app, even though they're maybe totally custom.
Okay, all right. And just to extend that conversation about forms for a moment, it sounds like form creation or customization, all of that is done right there within Acumatica. You don't need to have another program or another tool from a third party in order to create those forms. Is that correct?
That's correct. Now I will caveat with on the actual forms themselves, there is a little client report builder thing that you have to download. It's not a third-party product; it's part of Acumatica, but it does have to run on the machine of who's doing the modifications, and then they get saved back up into the cloud environment. Just make sure we're very clear, but it's not like you don't have to go by Crystal or anything like that.
That's actually what I was getting at. Without,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I knew
Okay.
where you were driving there, Jeff.
Okay. Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. Then we've got a little bit different question. We sell B2B and need to provide availability of all configurations to them on a daily basis. Is this possible?
It would be. I do think that's sort of skirting into what would probably need to be a custom solution, or before I answer definitively, I want to understand a little bit more about how the data needs to be provided. But at a very high level, every sort of transaction or data point within Acumatica has a API endpoint, or basically a way to get to the data via code outside of the app. So web service, if you're familiar with that term. So it can be integrated with other outside products without a huge amount of coding overhead. So high level, the answer to the question is yes. I definitely want to understand some of the specifics around it before
Sure.
talking about the how. Yeah.
Sure, sure. And I read the question exactly the way that we got it. So
Oh yeah.
I had a feeling that there was a follow-up question that you probably would want to ask in order to really get at what is it that you're really trying to, or they're really trying to accomplish. But
Exactly. Yeah. So short answer is yes on that one, but I think it would definitely merit a little bit longer conversation probably.
okay, and actually, I just got a follow-up from the person that asked that, and basically the response was yes, it would be item number and available to build.
Okay. Yeah, so that sort of information we could absolutely push out. So I think where we'd have the conversation then would be where are we pushing it to, what
Right.
format does it need to be in, those sort of things. Yeah.
Right. And I know that I know you and I have talked about a couple of questions that we've gotten from prospective customers about the customer portal that Acumatica has. And I'm assuming that this type of information, availability of configurations of products and that sort of thing, is information that could be pushed out to their customers through the portal also.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So we definitely have some flexibility with that standard customer portal to kind of decide what we want to show and not show.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Now, we all have heard. I got another question because you used the word workspaces at the beginning,
Okay.
and obviously we all know workspaces mean different things to different folks, and in fact, different things in different software programs. And it seemed as though what you were stressing was that this workspace was not just a dashboard, number one. Number two was completely configurable, but am I correct that there are out of the box workspaces that come preloaded or essentially available to users right out of the box? Or do those workspaces all have to be set up and configured at the time of implementation?
No, there's a lot of pre-configured ones that are deployable like right out of the box. Now, being very transparent, generally everyone takes those and manipulates them and changes them because they don't hit 100% of necessarily what you want to see. But like this sales manager one, for example, is one of those canned out of the box type of ones. So there's a good number of those out of the box ones that give you a good starting point to building out the rest of what you probably want to build out.
Okay. All right. And it was interesting because obviously when you went to sales orders, that workspace, that looked more like a menu rather than what you're showing now, the sales manager workspace. Is that typical that they're more like that menu build, or is this type of sales manager workspace more indicative, or is it a mixture?
It's kind of a mixture, and it's really kind of very honestly getting into a nomenclature thing. And
Okay.
with some of the other nameless products that we worked with in the past, Workspaces has kind of meant one thing, whereas in the Acumatica framework, from their nomenclature, they do a little better job of drawing a line between what would be considered a graphical dashboard and a workspace, which is a more tactical type of thing. So just looking at my screen here, all this nice graphical stuff in the middle is what would be referred to as a dashboard, whereas the actual functional, here's where I do a sales order, here's where I set up customers, is called a workspace. So
Okay.
it's really just a name thing, but the bottom line is you can easily get to everything you need to get to.
Got it. Okay. And that's an interesting. That leads to another question that we got, which was, how do you view information? Rather than having somebody go in and potentially edit transactions, are there ways that users who maybe aren't the ones who are actually entering the sales order or the production order, but need to be able to view the information?
You
How does
can.
that work?
So just as an example, and I'm just going to keep going back to this sales order list here. I have rights to come in and modify and change and edit everything.
Mm-hmm.
I could give someone this same view. I could even let them drill down and look at the data on the sales order, but take away any sort of edit rights. So the security model in Acumatica works all the way down to a field level. So down to even the customer order number here, I could specify if someone should be able to change that field, view that field, or not see that field at all. So I can even take away view access on a sales order screen like this. So maybe I want to, just an example, um, not let somebody see specific information maybe about the item. So like if I had the cost displayed, so I want them to come in and see the sales order and see the price, but not see cost. I could totally remove the ability to even see cost from their role.
Oh, okay. So you've got a lot of flexibility then in how you expose that information to people.
Absolutely. Yep.
Oh, okay. All right, good. I know, Dave, we've had a lot of internal discussions about Acumatica being so flexible and giving users the ability to purchase it in different ways. But we haven't really talked about the fact that you have the ability to actually deploy Acumatica in different ways. Of course, we talked that it is a cloud ERP solution. However, do you want to talk just for a second about the flexibility that Acumatica gives customers, maybe in particular industries where security of being in the cloud is an issue, and they want to actually deploy on premises with their own servers?
Yeah, so there's actually three deployment models. Obviously they're touted as the cloud ERP. That's their focus. So full SaaS is, software as a service is kind of the bread and butter for Acumatica and how they like to, deploy it and sell it, and how a lot of people like to consume it. You don't have any overhead of IT infrastructure or anything like that. You just sign up, they send you a URL, and you're off and running. But there's two other methods too. One being what they refer to as private cloud. So it's still hosted somewhere, but you as an organization are taking on the responsibility of figuring out that hosting. So if you want to, put it up on Microsoft Azure, or if maybe you already have a hosting provider for some other applications and you want to install it there, you have that option. You also do have the option to run it on premise. So, it still runs as a website. It's still accessible, exclusively through a browser or through the mobile app. But you're saying, okay, well, we've got our servers in house. We want to install it in house and manage it in house. That's 100% okay as well. So, like, actually, even in the demonstration today, we're doing it through a web browser, but I'm running it locally off of my computer here as opposed to in the cloud. So it's just as easy to do that. There's obviously other considerations there with hardware and things like that, but they've made it very flexible and not locking you into any one particular method.
Right. Thanks. And actually, I asked that question. That was my question, by the way. I asked that for a specific reason, and that is because so many people have been locked into consuming ERP systems only one way. And the fact that Acumatica gives customers the options that they do in deploying it is one, obviously not restricting how you can use the software, but it's also indicative of the way that Acumatica is disrupting the whole ERP space. And I asked that question because I wanted to also build on your answer and let people know that Acumatica also extends that flexibility to how they buy the software. And the disruption doesn't end just there because Acumatica does not focus on user count when you're purchasing the software. And that's such a change for most people. It's something that we have to explain and make sure that it's not all based upon how many people you have accessing the system. And that's such a refreshing change. I just wanted to make sure that we included a little bit of information here at the end about the fact that there are flexible options available for people, not only for how they use the software, but also how they purchase the software. And obviously, you can contact your algorithm account manager or anyone here at Algorithm, and we'd be happy to explain that whole process and the options available to you for how you purchase Acumatica.